Howdy, cowpokes! Got a real dandy of a review for you today. Jump in the saddle and head out west with me. We're going to take a look at old Sierra West. Those boys sure are up to something in that apple dumpling gang again. And all them bandits are going to be on the loose. But stop! I can't do this anymore. Let's just review the game. It's a good game. It doesn't need gimmicks. Get to the table now. We'll come back. No more cowboy gimmicks, I promise. I'm sorry. I hope the cringe wasn't too hard on that. It was. It's okay. We'll be back in a little bit. Get to the table now. Sierra West from Boards and Dice. What a cool game. There's a lot here. I'm not going to get this whole thing covered because there's a bunch of modules, but I am going to try and give you guys an overview of like kind of the setup components and basically what an idea of kind of what you do on your turns. You may not get a full rules explanation, but hopefully this gives you enough flavor that you guys can get a feel for the game and figure out if it's for you. I'm going to look primarily at a module called Apple Hill. So this setup that I'm going to show you guys is for Apple Hill. The other modules set up similarly. Just you have to follow the iconography and pull certain parts out. So I'm going to try and mention, or maybe put a little Apple icon on when I get to the stuff that's just exclusively for Apple Hill. So you'd know that this part would be a part of that module and it would be replaced by a different module if you were playing a full game with something else. We're going to start with a player board setup. So right off the bat, this game is a deck builder, kind of. So it is a deck builder, but man, it just feels like just a part of the game, really. So you start off with a few cards in your basic deck. The ones, we basically are going to go by the icons in the upper right-hand corner there to tell us which cards we need to start with. And then we also have 4 other cards that come with our basic cards. But they also have another icon, and those are for the 4 modes. So we're going to play Apple Hill. So I'm going to take the Apple Hill card and place that with my cards. These other 3 cards we're going to get rid of for this game because we aren't playing the other modes, boats and banjos or whatever other mode there is that we would want to play possibly in the future. But this is just going to kind of give an explanation of the general system. So we're going to pick the most simple one. So we have our basic cards. This Apple Hill card I'm going to put face down as my last card in my draw pile. The rest of these cards I'm going to shuffle. And then I'm going to stick those cards on top of this one and make a draw pile, making sure that I put that Apple Hill card on the bottom. I also have a few different kinds of workers, 4 different kind of meeple kind of things, all different shapes. We have these 2 workers, which are going to stay on our player board, and we're going to follow the icons here, where we have the littler guy with the hat. He's going to be our green path worker. We're going to have a tan path worker, and then we're also going to have all these tiles down here, which they look like traps right now, but on our turn we're able to trap some animals and add them to our play area, and they're going to give us benefits. So whenever I get a trapper icon, I can use these tiles, but they're going to flip over. The more I can flip over, the better it's going to be for me overall. The most distinctive thing about this game is this top board here has these teeth, and those teeth, we're going to really get into those here in a second, but those are really interesting. And these cards, the way how they program, really interesting. So we'll get into that a little later, but basically we get this starting stuff here for our player area. The most tricky thing is making sure you're picking the right components for the mode you're playing. This is a pretty central part of this game, is this mountain that we build. And this mountain has directions on how it should be built, but it's basically going to involve icons there and a certain deck of cards. So this is all the unique Apple Hill deck. Every mode has its own deck because the icons are going to interact differently with the different components and the different rule sets. So these are the Apple Hill cards that I've used. If you weren't playing Apple Hill, you'd use different cards, but the mountain would look the same. And these icons on the back sides would pop up at the same places because, and even with a few more details in them in a couple modes, because those are going to kind of serve as a timer for the game. So as we explore this mountain, we're going to advance these cards across the bottom here, and it's going to make the game come towards an end. We'll get into what happens on the mountain here in a little bit, but the mountain's set up following a specific set of rules, using a specific set of cards. With any good game nowadays, you have to have good wooden resources, and this game has great wooden resources. We have our food, our wood, our gold, and our stone, and we're going to gather those in order to do different kinds of transactions and move up different tracks. Really nice quality wood components here. I don't know. I think the shaped wood, I think, is a nice little extra touch. Actually, this game is surprising how much comes in this box for the price of the game. It really does feel like you get almost 4 games in this box. And so these components, though, that come in there are really nice quality. Really enjoy playing with these, and you make your pool of resources for sure. There's a couple other resources we're going to hit real quick too. Another resource we use in this game are these pair of boots. They're worth a victory point at the end of the game. You earn them by doing certain things or getting certain consolation prizes throughout the game. You hang on to them, they're worth a victory point at the end of the game, or you can burn them for different kinds of transactions. They're basically another resource, but they're like almost like courage or something. They allow you to go out and do some extra work and do something that you wouldn't have done otherwise. In our settlement, there's also a spot for us to build cabins. And so there's a cabin market. The cabin market has a price on the bottom there. Things get cheaper as they slide right. So it's that thing of you're going to pay more, or you're going to pay and get more choices, or you're going to pay less and get something that's been sitting out there for a while and sliding over. So it's got that thing of balancing what people think things are worth because of, basically just by the market adjusting itself based on turn progressions. These little player boards come out in this game too. This player board's going to be used all the time, and so the tracks for food, like lumber and stone, are always going to be in the game. This one is an additional player board. You can see that it's modular. It is for Apple Hill, and that has to do with the Apple tracks. This is going to be a large way for scoring points in this game. Then also this track up here is exclusive to Apple Hill as well. That's our apple supply. Apples are another resource that is kind of a shared resource. It's like no one owns the orchard. The apples are produced in the orchard and we go and get them over time. So another resource yet. This game is just so full of resources and interesting just things like that. So your table's going to look something like this when you are fully set up. This would be for 2 players. Let's see what a turn looks like, and this will kind of give us an idea of what's happening. I'm going to draw 3 cards on my turn. I have this player board here, and it looks like there's a lot there. There is, but there isn't. We'll get to it all. So I drew 4 cards. Draw 3 cards. There's a draw 4 cards variation in there, but it's really funny because in the rules, the draw 4 cards variation, it says you probably shouldn't play this, but here we included it just in case. It really does say that. So here are the 3 cards that I drew. We're going to talk about these cards now. Let's go ahead and get right in on those. We need to look at these icons on the bottom here. And the ones in the tan are going to show, we're mostly going to have those tan icons come into play. And then some of the green icons are. So on some of these cards, the tops and the bottoms are going to be used. So we're going to use both of the icons there as we tuck them into our boards. Some of them we're only going to use this icon here, this middle green icon. But for the most part, that one's going to get covered up. So we got to figure out which one. I think I want a pair of boots at this point in the game, and that'd be really important to have. And I basically am not going to get anything else out of that pair of boots icon. So I have to decide, do I want stone or do I want food? I think I want food. I think I need food earlier on in the game. So I take that card that I decided I want and tuck it back behind here. And now it's going to cover up, those teeth covered up a couple of the middle icon there, the middle row of icons. I said I wanted that pair of boots, right? So I'm going to put that card there. And it goes up a level. It stops at that tooth there. So that green's going to show. And then this last card I'm going to tuck as well. And if I did this right, I should have a green line and a tan line without any interruptions between them. And what's going to happen is I'm going to send my pioneers across this path and get those icons to activate for me. So the different icons do different things. The first icon we're going to look at is this, the boot icon. This allows you to move on the board over here. We'll get to that in a second. This is the trapper icon, which would allow you to activate any animals that you've trapped at this point in the game. So this is a really powerful icon. Maybe not early in the game because I don't have anything flipped over yet. This would be just a chance to acquire a gold nugget. This is a hazard. This bear, I have to pay 1 resource of my choice, which is what that means, in order to overcome that hazard. And it's mandatory because it's got that red outline. Get 2 food. a shovel, which is useful for a few different kinds of actions. It's useful for building cabins. It's also useful for when I go exploring. And then getting stone. And then once I get to the ends of these paths, if I work all the way through and get to the end of these paths, which is optional, you can stop at any point along there that you want, then I'm able to decide that I would want to, oh boy, I can go to these summit actions up here, which means go up on the tracks where I'm going to score points at, or move my wagon, or any number of other options. So, interesting. So I have some choices here. I think really what I should have done is I'm going to switch these two cards, because what I could do at this point in the game, like I said, that trapper icon is not going to do a lot for me, and I don't think I'm going to be able to do 2 summit actions. So I would have rather done this. Get 2 food, use a shovel action for 1 resource, and then just stopped him there, and then walk this guy all the way through. So, and then once I did that, I could take a summit action. And let's say I gathered, a stone and a wood. I've gotten the stone, and let's say maybe I had a wood from previous turns. Well, then I could use that to go to this summit action here, which says pay a stone and a wood, in order to move up on the stone track. I told you we'd get to that boots icon. This is where we're largely going to use these boots icons. So the boot icons up here at the bottom here, a single boot plus a resource will move your wagon 1 time. This wagon moving down this trail is important for a couple of reasons. One, there's cards that are going to pop up below it, and the further you are on that trail, the better off it's going to be for you. But the second thing is it's a points multiplier for the other tracks over here we're going to look at in a second. So that's one way we can use boots, is pay a boot and a resource to move my wagon along the Conestoga Trail or whatever that is. Another way you can use boots is for a movement up the mountain. And so I'm going to try and ultimately get my guy all the way to the top of this mountain. And then once I have him on a face-up card, I can use a shovel. And that shovel is going to allow me to take that card and put it into my deck. And then once that card is revealed, or once that card it comes off, we reveal any cards that are uncovered, which would be this card. And so this card right here is going to go to the bottom track. Here's that bottom track of cards. Basically, what's going to happen is more cards with apple trees on them in the Apple Hill edition or version of the game are going to keep popping out. And I'm going to be able to collect cumulative apples that keep going. So there's going to be more and more apples in this game as we go. The other modes, there's things like outlaws that come up down there. There's like minecart kind of actions that come up down there. There's different kinds of things that happen in this track in the bottom here that relate to the mode you're playing. So there's always something thematic happening there. In Apple Hill, it's these apple trees pop up, and they show us that we can get more apples as the apple trees grow and advance as time passes. So the mountain up there is going to keep deteriorating with cards going to our hands and going here. We're using boots to climb up that mountain and move our wagon across that track. Again, here are our tracks. So I had an opportunity to use a summit action to go up a track. So let's pretend like I did that. And I paid the wood. I paid the wood and I paid the stone to go up that track. When I did that, there's a benefit for me. Up at the top there, I'm able to get some gold. I'm also moving up my scoring icon up to the 1 there. So again, remember that multiplying track down there? I can get my wagon down to the 4x spot if I move it all the way across the track. So I'm going to get 1 times my multiplier for the wagon points for doing that. So over the course of the game, hopefully you'd move these things up to, 3s and 4s and 5s. And your multiplying track down there, hopefully you've got it moved down to the 4x. So we add these up. So if this were my final score, it'd be 4 plus 3 plus 1. So I'd have 8. And then if I did the times 4, I'd get 8 times 4 points for this track right here. The other way I'm going to get points is by getting cards from the mountain. So when I get cards from there, I'm going to be able to put them into my deck. Every card with the star icon on it, which means it's from the mountain, gives me a victory point as well. So those are large ways to get victory points. There's a few more loose ends I want to tie up before we wrap this up and get back into the studio. These log cabins down here, I went ahead and just put a few in there so we get to see how that works. When it's not our turn, our guys are hanging out in the camp, okay? And when they're hanging out in the camp, they're free to do some off-action or off-turn actions. So those include these 2 basic actions that come from the very beginning of the game, which include put a person here and pay a resource. I'm going to be able to trap one of the animals that I have down below there, which was a part of being a pioneer. So I would flip one of these over, and that would make my trap action much more powerful later in the game by getting a bunch of those flipped. Plus, if we don't get those flipped, they're worth -3 points. Same thing with building cabins. If you don't get cabins built, it's worth negative 3 points. So it's something you really want to do. It's really encouraging you to do something to help yourself otherwise anyway. So I can stick a person there and I can trap. Or I can stick a person here, and when someone goes up those tracks that we just talked about, I could get a resource if I wanted to go there. The other thing that I could do is I could stick these 3 green cabins here. Any of those can have this guy work there and stay in that cabin and support basically the exploration efforts or the efforts of other people. It's going to make things better. I don't know. I'm going to say they're praying. So like they went back to the cabin to pray, and this right here is showing that whenever I encounter a wood icon, I would actually get double wood. So he's praying that I find more wood. And so when I send this guy up here in this track, as long as there's still a person in there praying or whatever you want to say, for us to find more wood, they would find more wood. Same thing with this. This would give you double the stone. So whenever you encounter a stone icon on the green track, the cabin's green, on the green track, whenever you find stone, you'd get 2. This one says that you could pay boot icons to move backwards 1 step. So that's very expensive to do, but it's something that can be very powerful at times. This worker can go to the green cabins. This guy can go to the brown cabins. So this guy, if he goes here, it says, hey, take a discount on those mandatory actions or those resource costing spots. So you could send workers to cabins to pray. Basically, you can't go from here to there. So that's one of the other tricky things. If you've done an off, the way they have like basically a path that you follow. For me, it makes more sense to just say, if you're in the camp, you can go to one of these spots. Otherwise, once you go to one of the spots, you're stuck there. You can leave those spots to go walk through the camp there. So even if this guy's here, this guy can do his whole brown row, and then he can leave and go do his green row later. But as long as he's in there, you get that benefit. As soon as he leaves, you're done. You don't get that benefit anymore. So that's something kind of neat about this game. There's finally this mule that is in the game, and there's a mule that is the icon there. He can go work in a cabin. He's a very cool mule. He works in the cabin. He's able to turn gold into other resources when he's working in a cabin. But then also he's able to do summit actions. So there's 3 summit actions available up there. There are times definitely later in the game where you want to take all 3 of them because you have plenty of resources. And so by taking all 3 summit resources, including the 3rd one, we're using the mule, that's really powerful. So getting the mule, his icon, we covered up, I think, in one of these spots. Yeah, here's the mule icon. If I wanted the mule, I would have had to put him there. But I didn't have a use for the mule earlier. So getting the mule, pretty important, pretty powerful. It's like a 3rd worker kind of in some ways. That's a real rough overview of how to play the game. There are 3 other modules that I want to just touch base about. So these 3 stacks of goods and cards and chips and whatever up here are different game modes. So there's 3 additional game modes that come in the box. One that involves mining, and it's going to have icons like lanterns and dynamite and pickaxes. So we're going to be using gold more and differently. Gold's going to score more points for us at the end of the game if we can get into carts. We're going to play as lawmen and deal with the bad guys and the outlaws and try and capture outlaws and get points for scoring by capturing outlaws, keeping the place safe. And then finally, there's a fishing and banjoing module where it's kind of fun. There's dueling banjos in that. So some of the hazards you have to overcome in that game include dueling banjos. So, and another interesting mode too, that's going to be able to use fish to manipulate resources. We're going to have canoes going up and down a river. So, all themes about settling and the Yukon and getting gold and the law people. And those are going to cut out basically that little sideboard that is Apple Hill. The bottom's going to change, and then that mountain of cards is going to change slightly too. And then we're also going to add these resource token type kind of things into the game as an additional feature. There's also different animals that come with each mode. So the badger goes with the lawman, the raccoon goes with the fishing, and then we have like a prairie dog that goes with the mining. And then we have a little canoe even that comes with this. So like little shaped canoe meeple kind of thing. Just really neat stuff that just comes with the game for those 3 different modules. I'll talk about the modules and talk about how all this stuff comes together back in the studio, which I think it's time to do now.
So Sierra West, you guys hopefully got a feel for the game. There's better videos out there to learn the rules, but this wasn't necessarily me trying to explain the rules of this game. I want to give you guys a feel for it. This game's so unique. I felt like it needed kind of some looking at it, how those like teeth on the board kind of work to make like almost like a programming thing happen with these cards. Really cool. I've not really seen anything too similar to this. I've heard La Granja has kind of got like a similar thing where you place the cards in different places, but like I've never played La Granja, so maybe it is. I don't know, but for me, this is just totally like a new thing for me, and I really like it. I'm kind of spoiling it by getting it to that point right now, but I'm going to go ahead and we'll just go to the other slides here. We're going to take a look at what I think of this. Right off the bat, Sierra West is a tremendous value. I mean, like, for the money, you get all this game. You get basically 4 games. The different modules feel enough different from each other that there's games that people have tried to sell as like 2 different unique games, and 2 different companies have tried to put out like different games that are supposedly different. And I've owned both the games, and they're more similar than the modules are in this game. So I think this whole like card placement, track building thing, they give you 4 games in that genre kind of with these modules. And like, honest to goodness, like I feel like there's been times where we as gamers, or me as a gamer, I'll just speak for myself, have bought 2 games more similar than the differences that are found in the modules in this. And that said, when you play the different modules, it feels like you're hearing a cover song from like your favorite band. You know what I mean? Like it's like hearing like Ed Sheeran play like a Beatles song or something. Like it's familiar, but it's different, and it's refreshing, and you can appreciate it, but it's an ode to the other. You know what I mean? So I think that the Apple Hill, the one that we showed you guys there, is probably a really good way to get introduced to this game. I'm not positive it's my favorite. I really like the fish mechanisms. I think every one of these has its own merits, to be honest with you. And they have different layers of player interaction. They have different layers of just, I don't know, complexity and thought. So I think it's a tremendous value that you get all this game in one box. Really, it does feel like 4 games. And when I opened this box up, I was like, whoa, are you kidding me? Like, look at how full this box is. It's just jammed full of stuff. There's just so much in that box. It's a pretty tremendous value, to be honest. It's got a medium heavy weight to it too, which I personally view as a really strong point of this game. I personally find that there's not a lot of these medium heavy games that are coming out that I really love right now. They all kind of feel like they're doing the same things that the games have been doing for a few years now. So something unique and a little different in this feels really good. This game is as exciting to me as like maybe Rajas of the Ganges was last year, which is a pretty high compliment. I think Rajas of the Ganges ended up in my top 30 games. So it just feels like that kind of a finished good game, you know? And Boards and Dice is just doing that with most of their games right now. So this game really is that great medium. I mean, I guess really the Rajas of the Ganges comparison is really the weight of the game. It's pretty similar. Like it's that like Next Steps Gamers, like game group, but not necessarily really heavy game group can play it, and it feels rich and it feels good and it feels different. So I really like that. The components in this game are super strong. The cards are really nice quality. The way how they use iconography to separate the modules out works really well. Comes with a solo variant in the box as well. Then there's wood icons and bits for all the stuff. The only thing that I think is a little bit like, maybe I wish you would have done something different there, is they have these really cool stylized meeples for like the like trekking guy that goes up the mountain. You've got a customized wooden wagon, and then you've got a customized cowboy meeple, and then just a generic regular meeple. Like it would have been just kind of cool to like have like a female settler, like maybe in a bonnet or something. I think that could have been done. And that would have made it like over the top insane, like given it components value of 5 probably. Even where it's at right now, it's very strong. So that just, it's a personal thing. It bugs me that they just have a regular meeple with all this other really over the top stuff. So that's a really small complaint I have about components. Overall, very good components. I mean, like if I'm gonna point out the thing that's negative, that's it. Otherwise, there are so many positive things I can say about it. The art is really good. The finish is really good. The player boards are really well laminated. They do provide three custom. 3 custom out of the 4 wooden pieces are just custom, plus the canoe 5 out of 6. So there's lots of stuff in there. They give you nice wooden tokens for the tracks, whereas when you're giving out 6 wooden tokens, especially when 2 of them are only used in one of the modules, like you might think about not using wood, and they did use wood. So that's a really good value. I think it's really nice they put wood in there for all those parts. The cards are really good too. They can be handled, and they're made as well as any deck building kind of cards that you would see. They're made to be handled, and I haven't sleeved mine, and they've shown no signs of wear in a few plays. So I think that the cards are going to hold up. It's just really good components. This game's innovative. I kind of mentioned that the only game I've heard of that's even remotely similar to this is La Granja, where you put the cards in different sides of the board. This one's different though, even than that. Like it's advanced. It's more than that. The way how you're building that little triangle pyramid to make a path, just super cool. And that core mechanic there, like it's pretty easy to understand. It's like if you can understand these icons and understand how these tuck into this player board, you understand what's going to be available to you and what's not. And so I think it really lends itself to not being too difficult to learn. It lends itself to being fairly streamlined in its play, even, to be honest. The ideas of deck building are present in this, but it's not only deck building. Like, deck building supplements kind of a cool programming, action selection, going up these tracks kind of thing. And there's just so many different moving pieces in this game. You have a lot of selections. It almost feels like a sandbox. I mean, in a way, it almost feels sandboxy. That, like, you could ignore the mountain if you wanted to and just say, I'm going to concentrate on these tracks and pinnacle actions and just use the cards I've got. And you might not do great, but you could largely ignore that. And just, you could almost ignore the you know, like, just different little aspects of, like, the game that you would, like, you could ignore apples if you wanted to, maybe. I mean, like, there's just certain parts of it that you could ignore, maybe not entirely and still be competitive, but like, there's just enough choices out there and different ways to play that it makes it feel like there's just a lot there. The theme is amazing. I love Western games. My number one game of all time is Great Western Trail. So this one's probably not going to replace it as my number one game of all time, but I have done this thing where I'm only keeping 350 games in my collection. And this one's going to hang around for a while. So this one's kicking something else out of my collection. So there's another game that I've said that's great. This one's going to boot out. So this one's going to hang around for a while. The theme, though, is really cool. I love the theme. I love Western games. I just do. And this one's great, too. A pro and a con on this one is there's kind of limited player interaction. So if you don't necessarily like player interaction, this is going to be fine for you. And I put a pro and a con because it's a Euro game and it does have player interaction. So there's plenty of Euro games I've played that don't have any. So the fact that it has some is really to its credit. So there is some player interaction still, even if it's not a ton. And you get just a ton in the box. Again, that value. You just get a ton in the box. That's the positive. The negative is you got to figure out how to sort it all out and keep it, you know, categorized and everything. Keep it straight. Keeping those 4 modules straight in that box. You know, baggies and just whatever. And that can contribute a little bit to set up. This game doesn't take forever to set up, but it does take a little while to set up. Because there's just a lot in that box again. Which is mostly a positive, but there's a little bit of a negative in there as well with that. So, overall, really great. Way more positives than negatives. Where do I put the numbers at on this game? Well, the accessibility of this game is going to be like your typical gamers or game group. So this is going to be your people you have over once or twice a month to look at your games and play games with you. They're going to be a good group to have to play this game and enjoy it with you. The theme is going to be like everyone's going to enjoy this game. Now, whenever you say anybody, there's always a counterexample. There's going to be somebody who says, oh, I don't like cowboys or whatever. But this isn't going to offend anybody, and it's a pretty interesting theme for the average person. The fun, I'm giving a 4 out of 5. It really is a fun game. I think I've played games that are more fun recently, but it's a lot of fun. It's well above average. 4 out of 5 is an excellent rating still. So I do like this game, and I think the fun could go up on this one over time because I was so busy trying to figure out this game and think critically about it. I'm looking forward to just playing it and not having to try and figure out strategies and figure out what I really think about it for a review. So just getting it out and playing it in the future, I think my fun rating might go up a little bit. It's also new to me too, that it just took me some wrapping my brain around it. So if I had to tell you what I thought the fun was after my first play, it was probably a 3.5. Now it's up to 4. It could hit a 4.5. I don't know. We'll see. The replayability, I'm putting it at 5+ out of 5. I mean, the replayability of this game is insane. Like, the way how the cards work out, the way how you do different strategies. Like, if there's only one module in this game, it would be like a solid 4 out of 5 on replayability just because there's so many ways to get points and so many different ways to play. But now you're throwing in the fact that there's 4 modules in the box to start with. That's insane. I mean, there's just so much replayability there. Like, that's a huge strength of this game. You could buy this game and play it different ways and play different modules for it for months. And it would be the only game you would need to have that's your thing. So if this game clicks with you, you're going to get a lot of use out of it. You're going to get a lot of play out of it, and you're really going to enjoy it. So, 5+ out of 5. I mean, like, I can't think of a game that has higher replayability out of the box than this one, really, to be honest. The design and the art, 4.5 out of 5. It would have been a 5 out of 5 with that little meeple, so it's that close. Very good quality, very high components, very, very good overall. Even the art on the cards is pretty solid. It all matches and meshes. Like I just beat up a game a little bit for saying that the card design was different than the board design. So I gave it like a 4 out of 5. This one, the board design and the card design meshes. It all looks nice together. The way how the mountain gets formed kind of from the card backs is really cool. So overall, the design and the art in this is a 4.5 out of 5. So where does this land us at for our overall ratings for Sierra West? Is this something that I think most people would enjoy? Is this something I think is worth trying to find a copy to play? Well, we do a 5-point scale here, where a 5 out of 5 is like, man, it's a no-brainer. I think everybody should enjoy this game. If you're watching this video, go enjoy it some way, somehow. 4 out of 5 is like, I think, yeah, if it sounds like it's for you, it's probably for you. It's as good as it's going to be. It's going to deliver what it says. A 3 out of 5 is where we start saying, beware. So where do I land this one at? A 4.5 out of 5. I think this one's really strong. I think even if you don't feel like this game's 100% for you, you're like, yeah, it looks interesting, but I'm not sure if it's for me, I think you should try and find a copy to play. If you're like, yeah, I've been really interested in this game and I think it could deliver this thing to me, I think it will deliver that. I think it's going to give you what you hope it will give you. I think it's going to be everything that you really want, and maybe even a touch more, because those modules are just so good and so different. So this game met my expectations for sure. So 4.5 out of 5. Very good game. Love it a bunch. And I would even go as far as to say it might end up in the top 100. We'll see. I'm enjoying it a lot right now. So top 100 maybe. I don't know. I'm giving this one another unique Euro rating. So I've got my letters covered up there a little bit with my logo, but another unique Euro. This one's just different. I think this one, like Kalamala was the last time I called a game a unique Euro, and it was different. It felt different and innovative, and this one feels different and innovative. So I've been really tired of this cycle of games being so similar and being kind of samey, that anything that's new, man, I love it. I'm glad that we're doing some different things now. I like innovation. I like new things. So this game hits that for sure. So 4.5 out of 5 final rating. That means that I think most people would really enjoy this. If this looks like your kind of thing at all, I would encourage you to find a copy to play. Go find a demo copy at the store. Maybe even, I don't know what kind of game buyer you are, but maybe blind buy it even. I think it's that good. I think you're not going to have regrets on it. So at any rate, I've been Joel with the Board Game Mechanics. Board Game Mechanics, we do a podcast too. So that's a big part of what we do. You can find the link to that down below. If you haven't subbed, maybe think about it. Some tiles are going to pop up here in a second. You can sub on one of them. Another one's going to be my personal playlist, Joel's Cardboard Corner. I've got, about 60 videos on there by now. And then finally, there's going to be a video that YouTube tells me through magic can find a video you're going to like. So, you're going to like the other video, I guess. I don't know. Click on it. See if you like it. If not, leave a comment telling me YouTube lied. YouTube's a liar. YouTube's a liar. Thumbs up, though. Still give me a thumbs up. Does that work? Is that a possibility? Thanks, guys, for watching. I've been Joel with Board Game Mechanics, and keep playing.